Failure. The word alone carries a weight that most hearts try to avoid. It echoes with memories of things we tried and couldn't achieve, dreams we fought for and somehow lost, promises we made to ourselves but couldn't keep. Everyone fears it, yet no one escapes it. But failure is not the end. It is the mirror that shows who you really are when the world stops clapping. Marcia Wieder once said, "You can't fail unless you quit." And in those 7 words lies the greatest secret to victory, the power to rise again, even when everything inside you says you can't. You see, the hardest part of failure is not the fall, it's the silence after. The part where the noise stops, the support disappears, and you're left alone with the voice that whispers, "You're not enough." That's when most people break. That's when most give up, believing that the end of a chapter is the end of their story. But Guy Winch reminds us that emotional wounds need care, just like physical ones. You wouldn't walk around with a broken leg pretending you're fine. So why do we pretend our emotional fractures don't need healing? Failure is not punishment. It's preparation. It's the furnace that melts away the unnecessary, pride, impatience, and ego, until what remains is pure strength. The most successful people in history have failed more than anyone else. They were simply too stubborn to stay down. Thomas Edison failed over 1,000 times before inventing the light bulb. When asked how he managed to keep going, he said, "I didn't fail 1,000 times. The light bulb was an invention with 1,000 steps." What if you could see your failure the same way? What if what you call a setback is actually step 999, the moment right before the light finally comes on? But failure doesn't only attack your results, it attacks your identity. It makes you question who you are and whether you were ever enough. That's where most people lose the battle, not outside, but inside. Guy Winch writes that self-esteem is the immune system of the mind. When it's weak, every rejection feels fatal. When you fall, your mind starts searching for proof that you are worthless, and sadly, it always finds something. That's why overcoming failure isn't about success, it's about healing. It's about tending to your emotional bruises so you don't carry yesterday's pain into tomorrow's dreams. Let's talk about fear, because fear and failure are siblings. They feed each other. Marcia Wieder said, "Fear is just a future projection of something that hasn't happened yet." In other words, fear is imagination gone wrong. It's your mind using creativity against you. You start imagining the worst, rejection, embarrassment, loss, until you paralyze yourself from even trying again. But here's the truth. Fear disappears the moment you take action. Not after success, but at the first step. Because fear feeds on hesitation. And hesitation is born when you keep staring at what went wrong instead of what could still go right. I know failure hurts. It's not just an event, it's an emotion. It carries shame, disappointment, and regret. Sometimes, it's not even about what you lost, but what you believe you'll never get back. But healing begins when you stop defining yourself by your scars. Guy Winch said, "Rumination, the act of mentally replaying your failures, is like emotional bleeding. You keep reopening the wound until it becomes your personality. You must stop telling the story of how you fell and start building the story of how you're rising." Let's be honest, we were trained to hide failure. School rewards perfection, not effort. Society praises success, not resilience. So we learn to wear masks, pretending everything's fine while dying inside. But the truth is, the most authentic, powerful people on earth are those who failed publicly and still walked tall. They didn't run from shame. They walked through it until it lost its voice. You can do the same. The comeback is always stronger than the fall. Because when you fall, you gain something success can never teach you: perspective. You start to see what truly matters. You realize who's genuine. You rediscover why you started. That clarity is priceless. Failure removes illusions. It shows you that you don't need applause to be valuable, and you don't need perfection to be worthy. You are enough, even when your plans collapse. But to rise, you must forgive yourself. Forgive the person you were when you failed. Forgive your past decisions, your delays, your distractions, your doubts. Forgiveness is not saying what happened was okay. It's saying I refuse to let it define me anymore. Guy Winch reminds us that healing emotional pain starts with compassion toward yourself. Talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love. Because if you keep punishing yourself, you'll never have the strength to rebuild. Every failure comes with a choice: surrender or growth. When you choose surrender, you become a victim of your story. When you choose growth, you become the author of your next chapter. Marsha Weeder said, "Your dreams are waiting for you to stop waiting." Maybe you've been waiting to feel ready. Maybe you've been waiting for a sign. Here's your sign. This moment, right here. Your failure is not your identity. It's your initiation. It's the bridge between who you were and who you're meant to become. Think of the seed buried under the soil. It's dark, cold, and pressed down by dirt. But that burial is not its end. It's the beginning. The pressure breaks it open so life can come out. That's how failure works. You think you've been buried, but you've actually been planted. And in time, you'll bloom in places your pain never imagined. Some of your greatest growth will come disguised as disappointment. The job you didn't get, the person who left, the plan that failed. All of them were redirections. Rejection is often divine protection. You don't see it at first because the pain clouds your vision. But when you heal, you realize that everything that left you was never meant to stay at your next level. Guy Winch says, "We take better care of our phones than our minds. We recharge our devices daily, but we run our souls to exhaustion." So when failure hits, it doesn't just hurt, it shatters us. The solution isn't to work harder, it's to heal deeper. Take time to rest, reflect, reconnect with your purpose. Because what's broken inside you can still shine brighter than what's perfect in someone else. You will fail again, that's guaranteed. But each time, you'll rise faster, stronger, wiser. Because failure isn't cumulative, it's transformative. Every time you fall and rise, your character evolves. Your mindset becomes unshakable. And soon, you'll look back and realize the thing you feared most became the foundation of your strength. Marsha Weeder said, "Your success will grow to the extent that you do." So don't chase success, chase growth. Don't chase applause, chase authenticity. Because the moment you start living from purpose instead of pressure, failure loses its power. You start seeing every setback as feedback, every detour as direction, every delay as divine timing. Remember this, failure never has the final word, unless you give it your silence. So speak again, try again, believe again. Your dreams are not dead. They're just waiting for you to rise with new strength. Because the truth is, you've never really failed. You've just been preparing for your real beginning. And when the world looks at you and says, "He failed," you'll smile because you know, "No, I didn't fail. I learned. I grew. I transformed. I became." So rise again. Not because it's easy, not because you're sure, but because you're still here. And being here means there's still more for you. The dust on you is not the end of your story. It's the proof that you fell and still refused to stay down. And one day, when they ask you how you made it, you'll tell them, "I failed, but I refused to die there." You've walked through failure. You've carried the weight of what broke you. But now, this is where your story shifts. Not tomorrow, not when things get easier. Now, because there's a version of you that failure tried to bury, and it didn't know that version was a seed. So rise, not just to survive, but to reign again, wiser, quieter, stronger. Don't chase motivation, chase mastery. Don't wait for light, become it. And if these words found you at your breaking point, then you already know you were never meant to end there. You're the kind of soul that turns pain into prophecy. Because this isn't just another story of failure, it's a declaration of your return. A reminder that the throne is still yours.